It's Tri-City Sports Now, our final segment. Again, I want to thank Adam Nelson that Scoop BJ Mackey reported to be a candidate for the Wofford head coaching job. There you are. Before I get to SEC football, I want to talk a little college baseball. Of course, tomorrow ETSU will host Virginia Tech, a team that had defeated them earlier on in the season. Victory here, and it does improve the lot, possibly of ETSU at 23-8, making the NCAA tournament. But basically, it's sort of like, the mid-majors. Hey, you got to win your conference, that sort of thing. Still ETSU, after losing 2 of 3 to VMI, in second place, only a game back of Samford with a 4-2 conference record. Samford's Bulldogs are 5-1. Tennessee was nationally ranked earlier before ETSU sent them into a tizzy by defeating them down there at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. And last week, the Vols lost 2 of 3 to Mississippi State, so now their chances of making the NCAA tournament maybe not as good as before. Well, actually, no, they aren't as good as they were before. Not maybe. They weren't as good as they were before. This weekend, after a game with Lipscomb today, the Vols will be playing the Georgia Bulldogs this weekend, and a lot of people are suggesting that Georgia, which is actually one of the hotter college baseball teams in the country, that's a program or a series that Tennessee really needs to take 2 out of 3 to prove their worth. What does Tennessee have to do to have a season that proves their worth, that they're a program not that's yesterday's team, but that is on the comeback trail? I think the Vols will have a winning record next year. I don't like their quarterback. I know their lines have not been the best, but they got the schedule that, they ought to win against. They ought to win some of these games. BYU is not Clemson. Let's face it. Another losing season would be disastrous. Would be still everything's not going right. Would be, is Tennessee the new Ole Miss? What are 24/7? Brad Crawford has a idea. 24/7 Sports. Brad Crawford idea. He says best and worst case scenarios for every SEC football team in 2019. I found this very interesting. A couple of things. Just the perception, I think, that certain writers still have of various programs. I remember telling you in 2007, Athlon Sports, they had their preseason annual out, and Tennessee was picked in the top 25. However, they did a position-by-position rating of the Vols that year, and there was no position unit that ranked in the upper half of the SEC for Tennessee. And that was a flashing red light to me that worse times were ahead, and certainly they were with a 4-8 season, 5-7 this year. Well, here are the ideas, and you go through some of the notable teams, I think, that come out. I mentioned Ole Miss, best case 7-5, worst case 3-9. Boy, you really don't know where Ole Miss is. If you're saying best case 7-5, worst case 3-9. But one team that I think will make some noise, and I would call them the sleeper team in the SEC East, is the Missouri Tigers. And best case scenario, Brad Crawford has them at 10-2, 6-2 in the conference. Worst case 7-5. Don't forget, Kelly Bryant, late of Clemson, comes to Missouri. They got to play West Virginia with their new coach, and West Virginia seems to be stocked down. They got to play in September South Carolina. South Carolina, despite Jake Bentley returning for his senior year, seems to be stocked down. However, they also have those games at home. Now, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. But come to think of it here, I mean, Missouri's defeated Tennessee in 5 of 7 years. Georgia and Florida would be tough. Those are probably the games that you look at and you say, yeah, those are the likely losses for Missouri. But I don't know. Kelly Bryant did take Clemson to the college football playoff. If Missouri had double-digit victories this year, could he do it with 2 teams named the Tigers? It should be said that Brad Crawford thinks Mississippi State will be pretty good this year at 9-3. I don't want to go through all these things. That's the best case, worst case, 6-6. So Bulldogs figure to be going bowling. Kentucky. Now here's something interesting. Where is Kentucky as a football program? They obviously are well coached by Mark Stoops, and Kentucky Wildcats. 8-4 best case scenario. Worst case 6-6. Remember, Kentucky has South Carolina's number. They've beaten them 5 straight years. Then again, Tennessee always has Kentucky's number, unless it's Butch Jones on a going out of business sale, Tennessee, or a coach going out of business sale. They beat Kentucky. I mean, that's basically the way it's been every year since 1984. So, yeah, you don't figure Kentucky 8-4 best case. Well, an extra victory or so against them, considering how well. Hey, look, who did number 12 Kentucky? They beat Penn State in a bowl game, a New Year's Day bowl game. South Carolina, I always say that that's the program that you sort of link Tennessee with. When their stock is down, that's good for Tennessee. When their stock is up, I mean, obviously, when anybody in the SEC stock is down, it's good for Tennessee. But I've always felt that as they're kind of linked to each other. When South Carolina was 0-10 or 0-11 or 1-10, that's when Tennessee won national titles. When Tennessee was really down, that's when South Carolina started to do very well. I've always thought that the hierarchy in today's modern SEC East is Georgia and Florida up at the top. The middle of the road is South Carolina, Tennessee, and Missouri. And the bottom feeders, Vandy and Kentucky. Although, yes, Kentucky, and for that matter even Vanderbilt to a certain extent, have been known to do better things than they have in seasons past. Best case scenario for South Carolina, 8-4. Worst case, 4-8. Boy, there's a big, big difference right there. Just like Auburn, best case 10-2. Worst case, 6-6. Florida, best case 11-1. Guess they'd lose to Georgia. Worst case 7-5. Yeah, they're not even really looking at Tennessee as a possible loss anymore. Why would you? They're looking at Florida State. And what about those Vols? What about the Big Orange? Best case scenario, 8-4. Figure you beat BYU, South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. Once upon a time, that was like falling out of bed, right? Now it's like, well, we think they ought to win those games. And then again, Vandy's taken 5 out of 7. Kentucky beat the Vols 2 years ago. It was a surprise when Kentucky won this year. South Carolina's taken 3 in a row. Best case, 8-4. You figure, all right, losses to Alabama, losses to Georgia, losses to Florida, lost to somebody else. Worst case, though, 5-7. What if this is a trend with Vandy? What if Kentucky is that improved? What if Jake Bentley is that much better than Jared Guarantano? What if BYU is good? Yeah. What about LSU? Worst case scenario for LSU? Only 8-4. Best case, 10-2. Oh, it's nice to be Georgia and Alabama. Best case for them, 12-0. Worst case, Alabama, 10-2. Worst case, Bulldogs, 9-3. So that's the story, if you will, with the best and worst case for this upcoming football season and such. I look at UT and I say I think that winning weak schedule is going to help them by and large. And if how can you say with Alabama is on the schedule, but it's weak? It's the SEC. Please, I do think that without Shermer, Vandy would probably run a little bit. I do think with their defensive losses, Kentucky will probably regress a little bit. I do think without Deebo Samuels, South Carolina probably regresses a little bit. I have no idea what to expect out of BYU. Then there are the 3 automatic victories that Tennessee is going to schedule every year, against that's the challenging non-conference opponent, BYU. Last year it was West Virginia with Will Grier. This year it's BYU. You do the math right there. So that is the case with that. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow I will be talking to Caleb Calhoun of All for Tennessee. He will be my guest at 1:15. Listen to me, Caleb. That's where I am on today. It'll be Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports Nashville. Forgive me. Where's my mind at right now? I don't know. Blood sugar doing some bad thing. A to Z Sports Nashville. Hockey playoffs begin tomorrow. And I went down the list. I'm going to try to go a little bit further and really evaluate those hockey plays. But the Predators will play the Stars 9:30 actually in Nashville tomorrow. And it's a game that I said will be on USA Network, which brings back a lot of memories to me because back in the 80s, USA had hockey, and that was something different. They had hockey and they had pro wrestling. That was right when WrestleMania was about to take. I saw Mario Lemieux's first game on USA. That was the only reason to watch USA. What, Rhonda Shear or something was gonna be? Let's see here. I'm looking at this because I've got 2 minutes left and trying to give you another, so just recapping. I really didn't have that much of a chance to talk to you about John Good coming to Unicoi County. That is big. That is really, really big for Unicoi County. And Mike Smith stepping down will still be on the staff of Good. He says he's an offensive guru, so to speak. I asked him yesterday off the air, I said, look, you're the former head coach here, and I know that you only won 9 games this past year, but Coach, think about this. There's got to be some point in time where you, as former head coach, looks like a demotion, although you're still going to be doing a lot of coaching on a lot of different teams and still the athletic director, and ultimately Good will be working for you. And so therefore, I've got to think there's going to be some course of time where, geez, why is he playing that guy? Why did he call for the zone right there when he just made 10 3-pointers in a row against us? One of those times. And how does that relate when you're a former head coach and you hired the new one? It's a little bit different than, say, I don't know, you're the up-and-comer. Well, then again, a former head coach who becomes an assistant, I guess anywhere is going to have that. But still, when it's your own team that you are the AD of, players that you used to coach. Smith actually thought that, he says, look, I've got enough respect for John Good that I don't think that's going to happen, and he kind of downplayed that. He says, look, professionals here, that sort of thing, I really, don't. But I do find that will be an interesting way, and I do find that to be something interesting that could occur there at Unicoi County. Again, John Good, the new basketball coach, who was announced right after Tri-City Sports Now ended yesterday at Unicoi County. See you tomorrow at noon. Colin Coward is next. Tri-City Sports Now.